Quinn, obviously you don't have, both teams don't have their teams fully intact here, but when you're in the position you are going into a play-in game and this is a possible opponent, how do you go about kind of looking ahead and scouting for if you do move on to Boston in the first round?
Well, I think not just Boston, but any potential opponent from an organizational standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, I should say, that you've got guys on your staff that begin to do that preparation on some level. Obviously, you can't go too deep into it because you don't know who you're going to play. If you're going to get a chance to play, a lot of that just is determined by how you play. So I think still focusing on your team is the way that we approach it. While there's other people that are preparing for any of those possibilities that of which there are many.
And what did stand out about the matchups between the Hawks and the Celtics, looking back at the first two games that these teams played?
I don't think we've, you can speak generally about it. As far as specifics beyond that, I think that's better left to for future analysis, so to speak, depending on whether what the situation plays out over the next few days, week, and get to that when it's more relevant. But clearly they're one of the best teams in the league, have been that the whole season. Their versatility is unique on both the offensive and defensive end, and Joe's done a terrific job. And you could go on about the season they've had and a lot of superlatives that attach to it. But for right now, we're focused on us and some of the things that we need to do in the next week to have a chance to continue to play.
I know a lot of the younger guys are going to be getting extra minutes tonight. What are you hoping to see from all of them coming out probably?
I think the biggest thing is for them to compete, and not, not approach it in a different way. Certainly it is different in some levels. Substitution patterns are different, starters are different, and all those different things. But the game's not different, and the people that they're playing with, and the way that we want to play, and for them not to become distracted in some way by some external circumstances, and just to stay focused on the way that they need to play and to stay in character.
So specifically that 3-point volume, obviously the Celtics going to go down as one of the top 3-point volume teams ever. Your Utah team was right up there. What kind of stands out to you about the success they've had offensively this year? I think they're going to go down as one of the top points per possession teams ever.
No, when I watched them over the course of the year, that jumps out. And for myself, looking at the way that we tried to evolve in terms of an offensive style, seeing that take place here, it's kind of self-evident, right? They're shooting them in a lot of different situations. I think a lot of that is one, recognition of where those attempts can come from, and then two, giving yourself permission to shoot them and permission to miss them, and the whole team feeling that way. Where certain shots that historically maybe people have looked at and said that's not a good shot. I've said it before. We never object to someone shooting a layup, and particularly if it's uncontested. And 3-point shots aren't layups, but for today's NBA players, open threes, you can count on them. If not making them, coming pretty close from a percentage standpoint, and they're still worth 3. As opposed to 2 points, which matters.
With DeAndre, he was probable for today. Will he play today?
Yeah, I think we'll go through the same protocol, but my anticipation is that he'll play. Yeah, and he's in a situation where, having not played, for a few games, I think it's important for him to have a chance to get out and compete and continue to get his rhythm and his timing. Not that he didn't have that before, but I think that's beneficial to him.
Quinn, you've been coaching a decade in this league, and you've seen this 3-point wave really come from where it was 9 years ago. 2 things: one, the skill level, and number 2, how has it changed the way you look at offense now?
Well, we went through it really specifically a few years ago where we were number 2 in the league in percentage, and our attempts were, around 10, 11, and it's pretty basic math. If you're good at something, do it more. And I think that's part of what's happened in the league. You have more players that are capable of making that shot. And then the situations that, as I've said before, that people are willing to take them continue to expand. So there's more opportunities that you can take advantage of it. So, like I said, it goes to your personnel. I think I'm a big believer in playing to your personnel. If you got guys that aren't great three-point shooters, but are good at other things, you want to focus on getting those shots, open shots. But to neglect that part of the game, I don't think makes sense tactically. You're just going to have different teams that can embrace it in different ways. If you have a center that shoots threes, you're going to have a lot more. I mean, that's a big differentiating factor, right? If you have 5 guys on the court that can shoot them as opposed to 4 or 3, your volume is going to go up. So you have to figure out different ways to be efficient. That's efficient for that team. But I think there's efficiencies to be gained, regardless of your personnel across position. That it's something that we've done with shooting centers or not. I think a lot of it has to do with, as I said, the strength of your team. But there's an underlying current there, to your point, where guys are just getting more and more skilled. I think players grow up seeing their likeness on some level shoot those shots or not. You see, Steph Curry gets, I think, credited with a lot of that. We've got a guy on our team that has range in that regard, and sometimes people think, oh, that's it's too far out, and maybe half court might be too far out, but there's a few of them. If you're open and it's a high percentage shot, it's a good shot, and I think a lot of it, again, you factor a lot of things in, right? Time, score, the flow of the game, but I think an open-mindedness to those shots has been an important thing. That's a precursor, to finding the shots that are efficient and good for you individually and good for your team collectively.
Any final questions? All right.